Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be creating some monogram cards or custom cards specifically for the recipient in mind using some new products from Altenew. I'm mostly going to feature the Mega Alphabet dies, and I'm going to be creating two cards today, one for my friend Ginger and another for my friend Michelle. So those are the reasons why I'm using the letter G and the letter M. For the first card with the G, I've taken some In the Navy cardstock from Gina K Designs, and I've taped that die on there with a little bit of micro pour tape. This is a very low tack tape, so it's going to be great for die cutting because after I put it through my die cutting machine, I'm not going to have any residue left behind. So I have these two pieces here, and I'm now going to cut them down just a little bit because right now the cardstock is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it's the exact size of my card. But I want to have a little bit of the white card underneath peeking through, so I'm going to just trim off a little bit off of each edge so that I have a tiny bit of white peeking out the sides. This also gives me the opportunity to make sure that the letters are completely centered on that cardstock. For example, on this M, it was a little bit more toward the bottom, so I'm actually going to be cutting off only the top edge. I'll leave the bottom edge as is, and then I can just trim the sides. While I have my trimmer out, I've also trimmed down some additional white cardstock that's going to go behind each letter, so I need it to be just a little bit smaller than those pieces. Starting out with the pinstripe background stamp from Altenew. This is a 6x8 set, so you have both the background and also some sentiments and maybe some additional little image elements, in this case some dots. So I'm only going to be using the pinstripes today, but I did want to show that there are additional stamps in that stamp set. So I'm using my Misty Creative Corners to get that cardstock in my Misty tool just right. Using these creative corners, it allows you to have the cardstock in the same place without having to tape it down or have any edges covered by tape or anything holding it down. So I'm pressing this down using the Emerald Ink Cube from Altenew. This is a nice green color. And I'm going to lift this back and I have to peel up that cardstock. And I decided to stamp it one more time because it was a little bit splotchy. You could see some spots that didn't really stamp well. So I used the creative corners again to get that cardstock in the exact same spot. And then I stamped it again. And by using the Misty Creative Corners, it allows me to have the stamp from edge to edge without anything interrupting. And even though it was still a little bit splotchy, for the most part, the center area was just fine, and that's what's going to be behind my die cut. So now I'm using the Moroccan Mosaic stamp set. This is also like the pinstripe where there's a big background stamp and then some additional elements that you can stamp. This time I'm using some Versamark ink. I'm going to do some heat embossing, and so I'm using this very sticky clear ink so that I can apply some embossing powder. This is Alabaster embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. It's a nice bright white, and I just have it in a container with a spoon so that I can scoop it onto my projects. I used a heat tool to heat set this powder until it was hot and melted, and that creates a nice barrier for some ink resisting, and I'll get to that in a minute. Starting out with the color Volcano Lake from Altenew, and this is basically just a lighter tone green than what I used for the pinstripe stamping, and I want to have a nice color over this entire area. It's a little bit splotchy. This isn't an ink that's particularly formulated for blending. It's more for stamping. You get a really nice crisp stamp with it. But I really just needed that center area for behind the letter G. But over on this one, I'm actually going to be doing quite a bit of blending. I'm starting out with the color Deep Iris, and I'm going to have sort of a rainbow blend effect over the entire surface area of this Moroccan Mosaic background stamp. And you can see the lines that I stamped and embossed earlier are resisting any of the color that I'm putting on top. That's because the embossing powder has a very smooth, slick surface, and so the ink won't stick to it. It's a really fun technique. It's an ink resist. I then used Rubiletto, that's that pink color, and then Orange Cream. I really loved how these colors mix with each other, specifically the orange cream and the rubiletto. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. I love how those mix. It gives a nice, almost sunset look. This last color is Fresh Lemon, and I made sure to clean off my work surface here. By the way, this is a Tonic Easy Clean mat. It has a slick surface, so it's easier for blending. I cleaned that off to make sure that any of that color that was left on the Easy Clean mat, that it didn't come in with the yellow, because I didn't want the yellow to be contaminated by the other colors. So now that I have that background done, I'm going to do some additional detail work on one of the monogram pieces. This is the G piece that has the navy background. I'm taking a gold watercolor shade from Finetec. This is my favorite gold shade, if you can't tell. I've already hit the bottom of it. And I'm just painting the edge, the cut edge around the letter G. And if you've ever done any die cutting before, you'll recognize this kind of indentation that's going all the way around. You can see it a little bit on screen. I'm just painting within that edge. That's a good guideline to give me nice even line stroke around this letter G. And I'm also slowing down quite a bit. Don't be afraid to slow down. Look how slow I'm painting right here. You want to make sure that you have a nice even stroke, so don't go quickly. Slow down as much as you can and you'll get a much better result. I'm using a smaller paintbrush here. I think this is a size 6, and I'm just going along those edges. After I had it pretty much painted, I went over some areas that were a little bit patchy just to make sure that a lot of this gold shimmer was on there. So now I'm prepping the card bases. I'm using some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White in the 110 pound version. This is also the same cardstock that I used for the backgrounds behind the monogram pieces. And speaking of those, I'm going to adhere them to the card fronts now. I'm using some Tombow Extreme Adhesive, and I'll just be placing that in the center area of this card. This is when I realized that I did not cut these entirely perfect. The dimensions are a little bit off, but it doesn't matter because they're going to be covered by these other pieces, which are cut very accurately. So I adhered down that rainbow blended piece as well, just pressing that down. Then I'll place my M monogram over the top just to make sure that everything looks good. I then put a ton of foam adhesive. I was not shy whatsoever with all my foam tape. This is foam tape from Darice. They're really, really narrow strips. It's great for going into those little areas around the die cut. And I press that down onto the card front. This card is basically done. I'm just going to finish up the G monogram card. Did the same thing with all of that foam tape. Made sure all those areas were coated in the foam tape so I don't have any sagging once this card gets put through the mail. At this point, I decided that I wanted to add some additional gold around the outside edge of the card just because it didn't look quite finished to me. So I just went around very carefully, very slowly, painting the edge of this in the navy cardstock piece. And that really finished off the card for me by adding a little bit of that gold detail that is also around the letter G. So those are my cards today. I really love this whole monogram release from Altenew. I think these monogram dies are really fun. They'd be fun to have for all the members of your family, or even to get some more generic letters like the letter U, where you could put U and then a stamp next to it that says "You are amazing." Here are the envelopes that I created to go along with these monogram cards. I used that same gold that I used on the G card and went around the outer edge of this navy envelope. And I also used the same gold paint for the addresses on both envelopes. And on the one for the M card, I added a little bit of floral detail. Thanks so much for watching today. I will catch you guys in another card video very soon.